Hey, it's Ryan with this week's Mille Lacs Fishing Report. It's early December and we're starting to build a little bit more ice in the bays. We get started by talking about the ice conditions. Currently, what I'm finding in the bays and the areas that I'm fishing is about 6.5 to 7 inches of ice. You know, last week I was seeing about 4.5 to 6 inches, so we're building a little bit of ice, but things aren't moving really fast at this point. Looking at the forecast, I'm seeing a lot more of the similar conditions that we've had the last few days. We're going to have highs possibly into the 40s, but the days are short, the nights are long. I'm seeing 20s for lows at night. So we're going to build ice slowly in the bays. I don't see any major snow coming, so that's not an issue as of yet. But currently, with that 6.5, 7 inches of ice in the bays, I'm starting to see a little bit of wheeler traffic getting out, but make sure you're just checking things out for yourself before you go out. That includes walking, wheeler traffic, snowmobile, whatever you use. Make sure you're checking that stuff out. As far as the fishing goes, the patterns are going to remain largely the same at this point. There's three main things that I target at first ice in the bays. Number one is going to be big pike. That's one of my favorite things to do at this time. I like to cut a big spear hole in the ice, put a big minnow down, whether it be a medium-sized sucker minnow or a very big shiner minnow. I put it just a few feet under the ice on a weed line, and I kind of wait it out. A lot of times you'll find that the biggest pike of the season come right in the first couple weeks of ice fishing, that first ice time frame. So find a good weed line, generally about 10 feet of water. Try to find the greenest cabbage that you can. Put a minnow down about a third of the way down the water column and just let it sit. Be quiet, be still, especially if you're using a spear hole. You don't want to spook the fish away. But a lot of times you get your biggest pike of the year right off the bat. Now, while you're doing the pike fishing, something that helps break up the time in between fish is either setting out tip-ups for pike, doing a similar thing, just putting them in different areas, or what I like to do is just keep a jig rod handy and fish for perch. A lot of times you'll find that the perch at this time in the bays are going to be pretty small. You have to do a lot of sorting. But if you're willing to do some sorting, a lot of times throughout the day you can find that you can get a few perch for a meal. All I'm doing for the perch is just putting down a tungsten jig with some bugs on it, jiggle it about 2 feet off the bottom. Generally isn't too hard to find some perch, especially when you're on the weed lines in the bays. Third thing that I like to do this time of year is the evening walleye bite. And in the bays, it's a little bit different than the rest of the lake. But something I look for specifically for walleyes in the bays is I try to find where the weed line joins up to a hard bottom. So it doesn't necessarily have to be rock. Rock is ideal, but if you can find gravel or sand, anywhere where the bottom really firms up in that weed line and about 10 feet of water, it joins up to that harder bottom, that's going to be a sweet spot. That's a lot of times where you're going to find your best walleye bite in the bays at this time of year. Now, the walleye bite can be an all-day thing, but a lot of times you're going to see the real action is that half hour right at sunset. So be prepared for that. A lot of times I like to use a jigging spoon, you know, a glow-in-the-dark flutter spoon or a silver flutter spoon with a minnow head on it is just a go-to for me early season for walleyes. But the other thing is just setting up a plain hook and a minnow a couple feet or a few feet off of the bottom. The walleyes always take readily to that. So a big rainbow, fathead, small shiner minnow, any of those will work well. But you'll notice that it's that last half hour of the day where it seems to really be at its best. So looking at the long-term forecast, the 10-day forecast, what I'm seeing is a lot of pretty mild temperatures. Like I said, I don't see any heavy snows in the forecast, so it seems like we should be safe there. But we're going to be in the bays for a little bit longer. The main lake is still wide open. It's going to take a good cold snap. We might see that next week to start freezing things up out there. But there's plenty of good opportunities to be had in the bays. There's big pike. There's some fun perch action, and you can also get in on a pretty good evening walleye bite if you're on the right spot. Hopefully these tips help you out, and good luck fishing.